Hey everyone! So recently I've been definitely on a journey to find some inspiration, and one thing that always has worked really well for me is looking at some of my old artwork and trying to recreate it. So I thought it was time to pull out my middle school art portfolio that I have. It's pretty fun. I used to carry this around every day with me between the years of like 6th grade through 8th grade. I took things very seriously back then. I was not in an art class or anything. I just carried this around because I wanted to draw anime pictures. So thought it'd be fun to take a little look through this and maybe find something I can recreate. So this is the famous anime binder. Have no idea what this picture is from or when I printed it out, but apparently I liked it because it is on the front of this binder. Now on the inside, you can tell I took this very seriously. Pages are laminated. And most of these are from like 2008, 2009, maybe some from 2010. So my middle school years, like I said before. Someday I'll go through the whole thing, but just want to show you a little peek. You can see, oh hi Eleanor. You can see my influence, a lot of magical girl inspiration. But I was thinking it would be fun to take an OC or a character that I drew multiple times and maybe redesign them a little bit and draw them again. For example, this one, I knew I drew her a lot. I don't have that many left, but I do know I have more than one. I think I did not have enough laminated photos or laminated sleeves. But I think this is the same character. The blue hair and like the red and blue accents. I feel like I could do something with this. So I think I'm going to move forward with this character for now. But in the future, I would love to show off more of what's in here. So I spent a little bit of time kind of redesigning the character a little bit, updating it. I think I'm going to go with a pretty similar pose to what I had before. Just try to, improve the anatomy a little bit and the flow of the piece. What I have right now is pretty rough, so I'm probably going to go into my iPad and spend a little more time getting a sketch and some line work ready to go. And then once I have something I'm satisfied with, I'm going to work on the final piece with some alcohol markers. Back in the day, kind of when I was in middle school, alcohol markers were like literally the most coveted art supply, at least in the circles that I was invested in. Specifically Copic markers, which were very expensive and hard to get. I think I had a couple at some point, but they were a little expensive, so I only had a few. The ones I have now are just a generic brand, but they still work really well, and I think it'd be fun to work in a medium that I really wanted to back when I was 11, 12, 13 years old. So I'm going to continue preparing and then hopefully get started on the final piece tomorrow. Hey everyone, so it's been a few days. I wanted to make sure my sketch was like really refined because I decided to actually print it out on Bristol board. It's hard to see because I printed it really light, but I found out that if I use a particular setting on my printer, it uses an archival ink that doesn't get disturbed by either water or alcohol. And so I realized I didn't have to trace the line work if I did that. So I made sure that things were extra crisp and ready to go, and it's going to make things a lot easier. I'll probably do line work over it because it is fairly light, but it kind of saves me a lot of time. And that being said, today we're going to go with some alcohol markers as our medium. I forget if I mentioned that already, because that's what I wanted to use back in middle school. I'm not entirely sure exactly what colors I want to do yet, but I've got a pretty good idea. I'm going to try to stick to the original color palette the closest I can, but also maybe improve it a little bit. So we'll see what I can do. I don't want to take too long in this. I kind of just want to enjoy my afternoon coloring this and call it a day. So let's get started. So I guess I sort of lied when I said I didn't know exactly what colors, although I still am not sure. But because I was able to print it, I tested a little bit out. This is not what the final is going to look like, but it kind of was good to get a feel for the markers, like knowing when they'll bleed and how much they bleed. It's a little bit less precise, so I feel warmed up now and I'm ready to actually get started on the final piece. I will also have to brainstorm the background. It will probably be something super simple, but not entirely sure what I'm going to do about that yet. Okay, so I gotta say, printing this out on Bristol board was so smart, and I'm really happy the ink from the printer didn't smudge at all, because it really just felt like I was coloring in a coloring book, but it was my own drawing, which was really nice, especially because I did a lot of that work later. I really just sat down for like 30-40 minutes and just enjoyed my time playing around with the markers. I also feel like I used some colors I wouldn't normally, and I don't know, I felt like I really connected with my inner middle schooler. As for the markers themselves, they're definitely decent, especially for being more generic. Although I felt like they were a little bit dry at times, especially when trying to cover bigger areas. And at first things felt a little bit streaky, but usually once the ink dried, it kind of smoothed out a little bit. And for the smaller areas of the piece, it really wasn't that big of an issue, and honestly, it's hard to know how much of that is the marker and how much of that is just me not knowing how to use markers. But I don't know, it's really fun. It's definitely different from what I'm used to with watercolor, and I think that there's definitely some pros and cons. I think one of the positives is that it's just super easy to jump into a marker piece. You don't need to fill up any water, you don't need to prep a palette or anything. You can kind of just jump right into coloring. And there's something about that that's just super satisfying. Now, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to predict what the color is going to be based on the tube of the marker. Although a little bit of swatching really does go a long way, and it is something that I did prior to starting this piece. I also think that it's really nice how vibrant the colors are and how they blend, and kind of just how they sit on paper can be really fun to play with. Now, as for the downsides, I do feel like it's a little bit more difficult to predict how the marker is going to bleed and also how it's going to blend. This is definitely more of a user issue, since I'm not as familiar with how to blend the markers. I'm a lot more familiar with using wet-on-wet techniques with watercolor, which allows for really soft blending, so this was just something that was a little bit new to me. I also found that when I was trying to cover bigger areas, it would get a little bit streaky and a little bit harder to get like an even color going. And again, it's hard for me to know if that is this specific marker or if that has more to do with, again, user error, me not being super familiar with the medium. It is something that I definitely want to improve at. Honestly, using markers is really fun. However, I don't know how often I would use them for a finished piece. I feel like they're really fun for mapping out ideas, and I think I'll use them in my sketchbook quite a bit. But I don't know if they will really replace watercolor and digital work for me. I find that watercolor, while it does have its difficulties, is a lot more versatile, and also it is light fast. I have no idea how these markers would hold up in sunlight for long periods of time and how the ink would age. And so that's definitely one reason why I would maybe not make bigger finished pieces with them. That, and it's also a lot more difficult to cover larger areas and have them look good. This is something that I struggled with more towards the end of this piece when I was doing the background. And even though the background was very simple, like one color, I couldn't really get it even. And even though I hadn't used the marker before, it just felt a little bit dry. And again, this could be the brand and the fact that it's a cheaper set of markers, but it also, I don't know, it kind of hurt my hand a little bit, probably because I was gripping the markers a little too tightly. But I find it a lot easier with paint, even using like acrylic inks and stuff, because you can use different size brushes for different size pieces. And so I find that watercolor is just a lot more versatile. That being said, I still had a lot of fun using them, and I definitely think they were the right choice for this piece. Because again, I feel like I really connected to my inner middle schooler, and I think I would have really loved using alcohol markers at that age. I only had access to a couple, and so I didn't have enough colors to really do a whole lot with them. So having a whole set was just really fun, and I felt like I could really explore different colors and shading techniques. And really, they work great for like an anime art style. And so that was something that I really enjoyed. Now, something that has definitely changed since middle school is the speed that I make art. Somehow, like in middle school, I could pump out like multiple pieces a day. Maybe not multiple, but like I drew a lot more and I put less pressure on myself. Now, I definitely probably still put some. I think I've always probably judged my work a little too much, but I didn't put the same pressure on myself that I do now. And also, I just didn't draw hands. That also kind of helped. In fact, back when I was working on the line art, I was drawing a hand, and then I realized, you know what? For old time's sake, we're going to put that hand right behind the back. We're going to use the old tricks. And honestly, saved me a lot of time. Now, I don't love taking shortcuts like that these days because I do want to challenge myself and improve. But for something nostalgic like this, it was honestly really nice to not have to draw fingers. Because even though it's been like, I don't know, 12 years? Maybe more? Oh gosh, man, I'm getting old. Hands still really suck to draw. I've gotten a lot better at it, but it's still not something that is my favorite to do. Anyways, I am going to stop rambling and let you enjoy the finishing touches of this. There's a few details I did off screen, such as the line work and just a little bit of color pencil detail, mostly because my face was right up against the paper. But I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of the process, and I will pop back in at the end. And we're done. I do think she needs a name. Back in middle school, I for some reason never gave names to my OCs, but I'd kind of draw the same character over and over. So if you have any suggestions, especially any that really remind you of the years 2008, 2009, please leave them in the comments down below. And also, if you have any video suggestions or things you'd like to see from me, I would love any type of feedback or ideas. And with that, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.